I'm getting horrible left tears, trying to yoke tune, stuff like that. And I asked you because of one of the last videos that we did down here was you two discussing the diameter of your center serving. And so I asked you, I said, well, do you think could that have anything to do with my problem with my serving being so tight on that new, is it the AccuLite knock or
It's AccuLite.
Yeah, AccuLite knock. And you're like, yeah, big deal.
Yeah,
explain why.
Well, I mean, for me, like, for the AccuLite, like, I'm particular about my serving sizes when it comes to what knock I'm using. Like, Easton knocks, when I use those, I like to run my center servings around 109. 109 to 110, thousand. Yeah. I'm talking about thousands. And it's just so that they have the proper fit. You don't want them to be too tight. You don't want them to be too loose. Just kind of just barely pop on the string, pop off the string. The gold tip AccuLites, I usually run a little bigger, which is what I use on my stuff too. I love that knock. It's probably my favorite knock I've ever shot.
You guys are both using that.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. And
it takes a little bit larger serving though.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic knock. And
but not as large as what obviously I've been using.
No, I usually run around like 113 and 112 on an AccuLite. It's just barely bigger. I like to click my knock on it, and I don't even mind if it rocks just barely side to side, as long as it pops on and like I can tip my bow, and it takes a little bit of force to pull it off. I actually want it to snap and unsnap. Yeah. I don't want it to just slide.
Yeah.
But you don't want your bowstring to bow trying to put it on, you know?
Yeah, which is what I think it may be the problem, because like I was telling you that, you know, you were asking me how tight, and I was like, dude, it's tight. Like, it's tight to where it's...
It's just because that, you know, the knock throat itself is a certain size, and you have to get the serving to fit that. Otherwise, whenever you click the knock onto the string, you know, the knock's designed to go onto the string and enclose around it. And whenever you've got serving sizes too large, the ears won't close. They stay open.
Yeah.
And it stays extremely tight. That way, whenever you shoot the bow, you know, the knock's not ejecting cleanly off the string. It doesn't have, like, whenever you shoot, your string, the knock is designed to fit around the string in a manner that where whenever you shoot, the string is doing this number whenever it's going down through there. It's spinning back and forth.
Yeah.
Throughout the shot process. And whenever it's doing this number going down through there, if the knock fits so tight that it's taking that back into the arrow and doing that through the power stroke, it's going to give you funky tears, as opposed to the string just rocking inside the knock throat while it's going down through there.
Or whichever side your loop ends up, you know, when it hits static.
Yeah.
You know, it'll throw it that way if it can't turn inside that throat.
You got to have room to.
You don't want to pinch in too tight, because then you're relying on inconsistency. You're relying on the elasticity of the ears of the knock to be consistent, and the polymers and stuff used in knocks are more designed to be impact resistant and consistent, but not to the level where you want to rely on.
As quick as I was to dismiss a problem with the rest or a problem with the bow, there's so many variables.
So many.
I mean,
I wouldn't even tune a bow. The first thing I do when I get a set of strings is I throw them on my bow and I pull my micrometer out and start measuring my servings.
Yeah.
And the most important serving for me is my center serving, you know, where my loop's going to go.
Obviously.
The next most important is the cams, you know, what just on my string in particular are my in-servings on my cams. And for Hoyt, for what I use, I usually like to stay somewhere no bigger on my in-servings than like a 102, 102 thou, and I don't want them really much smaller than like a 94 thou. And on my cables, I'm not really as concerned. I've done a lot of playing around with cable sizes, and it doesn't seem to be critical. You know, you obviously don't want them so tight that they're flattening out really bad on the sides, but it doesn't seem to affect my shot to run really large diameter cables, and as long as my string's right. But if I tried running like 120 one time on my string and they fit super tight in the cam grooves, and I just wanted to I went overboard just to see how it affected it. It shot horrible. I mean, it was just so inconsistent in how it tracked into the cam. So.
Well, I don't know. Like I said,
That's what I would fix first on your bow.
Yeah.
I'd fix the center serving, get it down to the size. I'd run a 114, something like that. And then I would, I'd fix that and shoot it through paper and see what that does. Because that might clean it up. You know, it might completely
is
clean it up.
there a standard? Is there a standard that most, you know, if you don't tell your string your custom string company to make you something, is there a standard? Do you know?
Yeah. Usually a standard for center servings will be a 110.
Yeah, 110.
And with gold tip, that being a new knock, obviously that's not the new standard.
It'll still fit. You know, it'll still fit.
Yeah, it fits on there.
It'll fit good.
Yeah.
On a 110. You know, but
It's just not ideal.
It's just not ideal. You know, it'll have more play. Towards when you go to make your loop or tie your knocking point on or whatever. Whenever you click it on a 110, instead of your arrow, you clicking it on and have a little bit of play and enough friction to hold the arrow in place. The knock will actually just slide down the string.
Yeah.
So it makes it hard to tie in your knocking point.
Yeah, and I try to redo my center servings quite often too. And sometimes, like, you know, depending on material and stuff, you know, when you reserve your strings and then you put a loop on it over time, because of either, you know, release tensions on that loop, it'll pull those knots together a little bit. So, and it'll kind of compress that serving material inside your loop.
Yeah.
And so if you started out with like a 110, and then you put a loop on it and you start shooting it and everything kind of compresses, or you cut that loop off and you put another one on there and it gets tighter and tighter, and eventually you'll end up with the center being like 115, 116, because it's really pushing all that material together. And your knock starts to get tight and it's lifting it up off the rest. So you'll cut the loop off, you'll pull a strand of serving kind of down, tie a new loop on, and you just basically created one more strand in there that's eventually will compress down to the same width, and then it's tight on your knock again. And so you do it again, and then over time your serving gets to be too big in the center, you start running into a little bit of problems. So if mine starts to flatten out, usually on the sides a little bit, then I'm knowing that my center serving is getting to be too big and it's time to reserve it. I like my center where my knock actually clips to stay round.
Yeah.
As round as I can keep it. I mean, we shoot a lot, so.